on an election watch list, which we have established a database for. The Commission will identify the trends and discourses ongoing on social media and utilize the same to enhance its response. Let me clarify one point here, that the ones that are in our hate lex are in themselves innocent. It's not until we have context within which these words are used. And of course, the most notorious word here is Mandoadoa. Mandoadoa in itself is innocent because there is sports. But when it's used to identify people, within a community, and say these are Mandoadoa which should be removed, just like cockroaches was used in Rwanda. So when we came out with this hate lex, we were attacked by many people saying, how can you name or include these names, these words? But it's true, these words are innocent until they are used for a purpose of incitement and leading to violence. Through the Uwiano platform for Peace Messaging Hub, peace messages and narratives that will counter hate speech and incitement will be identified and disseminated through various online and offline media to address the potential of violence. These efforts, Your Leadership, have also been harnessed in the creation of our hate lex, through which we have endeavored to identify words and terms that are often used to mobilize people towards the breach of peace, as I have already mentioned. And these are not ones that, as I say, were banned by NCIC, but rather ones that needs to be monitored to ensure they are not misconstrued to cause ethnic violence. As you watch the documentary, which is behind the curtains here, you will note that all ethnic and post-election violence is predicated by hate speech, ethnic balkanization, us versus them narratives, and institutional mistrust narratives. Speech is often the small flame that sets the forest on fire. We therefore created the documentary to better inform the public on the dangers of the kind of narratives that and how speech and terms can be used to create an environment ready for violence. The importance of an informed citizenry and the voter on hateful narratives is critical to ensuring that they are not swayed by the words of errant leaders who would desire to manipulate the messages towards any form of conflict. And in this respect, the Chief Justice, I would say that more recently, we have really been concerned that in the campaigns, we have seen how the crowns sometimes are whipped up and are using even some of those words that are on our hate lex. And we are concerned because sometimes even the candidates themselves just watch this and don't warn them. And these are some of the ones that we will work with the media houses to say that when this is happening, they should be blocked. Because they should be warned to say that this really can't continue. As I conclude, let me say that we are also today launching the National Action Plan against hate speech, against which backdrop all these activities come together. As Alice Derrito said in her speech, we are very pleased to be able to be the first country in the world to have a national action against hate speech ahead of yes, I think we need to applaud ourselves because of this. And it's because of that support from the UN, I must say. But also, NCIC has all along identified hate speech as dangerous. And that is why we are coming up with a national plan against hate speech. Combating hate speech is one of the most important tasks that we have as a nation to ensure our ongoing peace is guaranteed for generations to come. It is not only just because of the elections of 9th August this year, but we want this to be part of our democratic culture. That way, even for the generations to come, we will be able to have built a foundation on which they can build and really achieve a Bila Norma country when it comes to elections. Without giving much away, I would urge you all to interact with our multimedia presentation of the tools we are launching today so that you have an intimate understanding of what the NCIC is doing to ensure we have elections Bila Norma. And thank you very much for listening to me. It is now my pleasure to welcome CS Fred Matiang'i in the name of Wilson Jagger, the Secretary for Peace and Security, who is representing, very ably representing the Cabinet Secretary, Fred Matiang'i. Karibu sana, Bwana Jagger.
Thank you very much, Reverend Dr. Kobia, the chair of the NCIC. Our chief guest today, the Honorable Indian Justice Martha Koome, Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court. I adopt the protocols enumerated by the chair in the interest of time. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm Wilson Jagger, the Secretary for Internal Security, representing our Ministry of Interior, which has been involved in the development of this national action point since it was a multi-agency framework. I want to begin on behalf of the ministry by thanking all our partners, international and local, public and private, who have participated in this journey we began last year. I also wish to thank the United Nations fraternity, and also in particular the UNDP, for partnering with us in this journey, and also for their continued support in efforts to counter this problem. As I've said, this has been a multi-agency framework in order for us to deal with this problem of hate speech. This action plan, as has been mentioned by the Special Advisor to the Secretary General, it has come at the right time as we now prepare to go towards our next elections on August 9th. We are now specifically 55 days to that election. And we know since the advent of multipartyism in 1992, this problem of hate speech, which leads to incitement to violence and so on, always comes around election time. You could see it in 92, our first multi-party elections, 97, 2002 it was not very pronounced, and we went back to it in the 2013, not very pronounced, But 2017, I think we saw a lot of it. And this year we are beginning to see it as politicians just for political space. And I think the major problem now, apart from the speeches which are given verbally, we have the digital space, which is where some of these speeches are propagated. And we need to be very alive to this. I'm happy all of us are partners in our recent spirit of we began with the multi-agency approach, then we developed into the whole of government approach, where we have everybody, the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, all of us working together in order to foster cohesion in our nation. And right now, after the whole of government, we have now extended to what we now call the whole of nation approach, meaning it's not just government alone. It also involves our private sector, our private citizens, and that is where we are. And this is the only way we can be able to counter this, when all of us work together. I'm happy what we are shown there, and let us take time to go through it. It's a good reminder. And once we go through it, we will be able to see the various actors identified and their specific mandates and roles in order to fight this menace. And I'm happy we continue to work together as in the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government. As we do that coordinative role, we bring together everybody, public, both public and private, in order to deal with this. The monitors, the chair of NCIC has mentioned, they work in our counties, and there in the counties they have the support of our national administration, which is from the sub-location all the way to the region. And that way, we can be able to work together. The National Police Service, specifically the DCI, they are on it using the cyber crime unit. And that way, we can be able to partner together so that we get real-time evidence which can be taken to the courts for the courts to adjudicate. So I want to pledge our ministry support in this process, and pledge that as we go into implementation, we will be supporting the NCIC and the other stakeholders. Because it is one thing to launch this action plan and another one to implement it. I think as a country we have not done very, very well on implementation. We are rated as having the best documents, but implementation we tend to not to score very highly. But since we have involved everybody, because we used to do it alone in government, now that we have embraced that whole of government, whole of nation approach, I hope we can be able to succeed where we have failed in the past. So in the interest of time, I want to stop there and pass the regards of our CS and our Principal Secretary. And now have this pressure of inviting our Chief Guest. Let us put our hands together for the Chief Justice.
Thank you very much for that warm welcome. Please take our seats. Thank you very much, Mr. Jega, for your remarks, and also the chair. Allow me also to stand on the established protocols and say good morning to all of us. Amani. Milele. Amjambo. You know, Reverend Kovia knows we like greetings where we come from. So I can stand here and greet you the whole morning because we like connecting with each other, and we like spreading peace through greetings. So it is indeed an honor for me this morning to have been invited to this great launch. And let me say I'm very, very happy to be amongst friends. I feel very comfortable here, and I think I made the best choice to be here than to be in court. To be among very, very good friends from the international community, from the UN, from the NCIC, from the NGOs, and from all the sectors, including being amongst our Excellency, Big Tent, to celebrate his elevation this morning as we launch this National Action Plan. So, on behalf of the judiciary, I am absolutely privileged to join you today for the launch of the National Action Plan to overcome hate speech. For us in the judiciary, this action plan, we view it as necessary, but also timely, as we all recognize we are in the election period when we disturb our peace. It is during this period that the ugly hands of tribalism and ethnic hatred always rears its ugly end. And I always say this is ethnicity for us, or tribalism, is something that comes up only during elections. So for me, it's a rhetoric that just comes during the general elections. Before then, we all know we coexist peacefully. We work together, we live together, we worship together, we celebrate or mourn together, but come the general elections, that is when we start knowing who comes from where. That is when you hear people being conned by their tribal identities. We must not allow this to happen. And if it does, we have the constitutional obligation to decapitate these ugly ends that rear themselves during elections. And indeed, this is what the National Action Plan that we are launching today is doing, reminding us that we are one people, we are one Kenya, we are one destiny. Kenya belongs to all the 50 million of us. No one has a right to create fear or animosity amongst us. It doesn't belong to the politicians. It is all ours. While there is no universal definition of hate speech, as the chairperson has explained, there are pointers to what hate speech constitutes. For instance, using threatening, abusive, or insulting words or behavior, or displaying this in any written material, producing a program which is threatening, which is abusive or insulting, and taking into account all the circumstances, the content, whose intention is to stir ethnic hatred and contempt, is hate speech, and it is not to be tolerated. Hate speech temporarily eases self-doubt. When it is spoken, we start wondering and doubting ourselves, who we are, what we believe in, or what we exist for. We also become powerless. It provides a surge of energy and takes away our positive energy and confidence. However, this is short-lived because hate speeches Attendant anger and resentment always drop you down lower than the point at which it picked you up. In other words, hate speech is ultimately self-defeating. It is a threat to social cohesion and nation building. For this and numerous other reasons, hate speech must be shunned by all. Whatever poll one conducts, at any event, everybody will answer to this, that they want peace. They like peace. They like to be treated with dignity and fairness. Therefore, who is the enemy? Who is perpetuating hate speech? Political prayers, in particular, are major culprits in spiking emotions. This happens when they themselves are flooded with emotion or when they seek to prey on the emotions of others. We want to remind them that it is a leader's duty and responsibility to know how to self-regulate in these instances. And for me, I understand where they are coming from, because when you seek for an elective position, it is competitive, the stakes are high, they invest heavily in terms of time, emotions, energy, money. I think as we move forward, we have to find a way of removing money from elections and from competitions, so that this investment is not a matter of life and death. So we must also think of these victims, because the position is one and it's being sought by many who have invested heavily in it. So we must be able to counsel them, to tell them there will be another day, so they need not stir animosity and violence. We must always aim for peace even when we lose the position. We are all Kenyans, the country belongs to us, and there will be another opportunity. And really, this counseling is important for those who do not make it. We in leadership positions must always remember that we are privileged to be in these positions. It is not really a right, but a privilege that we have been given to exercise this power and authority on behalf of the people. Therefore, we have the obligation and the tremendous opportunity to influence many people's lives positively. And when we become purveyors of hate speech, it becomes very, very unfortunate, because that is abuse of power. We have the responsibility to direct, shape, and focus people's thoughts and behaviors on what is best for the greater good. And there is no other greater good during this particular time than the pursuit for peace, peaceful coexistence, and creating harmony amongst ourselves. And this becomes the responsibility for all of us, because we cannot afford to take that for granted. As such, our speech must always aim to empower and to repair, as opposed to harm, hurt, and tear down. We have a great constitution, which is always our north, and it has great principles that guide us, especially the principle of non-discrimination. Because when we start dividing Kenyans between this and that, then we are discriminating against them. When grappling with what to say in any given situation, we as readers should use the simple but effective formula or guide, and always ask ourselves what we are saying. Is it inflammatory? Is it discriminatory? Is it divisive? If the answer to all these three is in the affirmative, then, for me, the speech is likely to be hateful. So those are the guides we use in court to determine whether it is hate speech. We ask 3 questions: whether the ones used are inflammatory, whether they cause discrimination, and whether they are divisive. It is simple. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, it is noteworthy that the law is unforgiving to perpetrators of hate speech. I wish to refer to our Constitution, Article 33, which grants the freedom of expression. However, this freedom does not extend to propaganda for war. It does not extend to incitement to violence or hate speech or advocacy of hatred that constitutes ethnic incitement, vilification of others, or incitement to cause harm. That is not allowed by the broad provisions of Article 33. And whoever will be citing it will be brought to answer for spreading hate speech that divides and brings ethnic incitement. I also refer to Section 13 of the National Cohesion and Integration Act, which also outlaws hate speech and prescribes a penalty of not less than 1 million shillings or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 years, or even to both. Use of hate speech and other forms of negative stereotyping assumes a central role in Kenya's politics, leading to periodic electoral cycles of violence. We are usually peaceful, but during elections, there is fear, there is tension, and this is really the antithesis of our Constitution. Hate speech often finds fertile ground in our election campaign period, and sometimes even after. We cannot forget that the violence which followed the 2007 general election was largely instigated by hate speech and political incitement. We must never regress to that state. For this reason, we in the judiciary have been working on a plan to operationalize special election offenses courts, mainly focusing on the hate speech. And let me assure Kenyans here that we are not very happy to have people brought to courts, especially because we know the victims who end up being arrested and becoming the perpetrators of hate speech are really not the principals. It is the supporters. The poor supporters are the ones who end up being arrested. They end up being taken to the police cells and being dragged to court. And it is for this reason in the judiciary, we have embraced a principle we call judicial hygiene, more or less like what you refer to in health, prevention is better than cure. And we are urging our people, please avoid actions that bring you into conflict with the law. And this is the message today to Kenyans. Avoid actions that will bring you into conflict with the law through hate speech, because it is not a joyous occasion to see somebody being prosecuted. We want people to be working to develop this nation, but not to spend time going in and out of court to answer to charges, especially on hate speech. So we will be partnering with the NCIC to ensure that what the judiciary is required to do to operationalize this action plan, we will do. And we will ensure immediate and expeditious resolution of all the matters that will come before us. I also wish to mention the special magistrates that we have put in place to handle election offenses. We gazetted them in February 2022, and we continue being committed to ensuring that the jurisdiction of these special magistrates, in addition, covers the areas that have been identified as hotspots. I also committed to extend special jurisdiction to additional magistrates after we mapped the areas and found we needed to include some other courts that we have included in that list of special magistrates, covering Nairobi, and they will be in Milimani. Previously it was, I think, Makandara. We have also established another court in Meru, in Kobo. We have Mombasa, Kisumu, Kakamega, Nyeri, Eldoret, and also Nakuru. Because we want to make justice accessible to people, to all those corners. And the public is also being sensitized that offenses related to hate speech need to be filed and fast-tracked in these courts. When a case is about hate speech, it has its own code so that whenever that file is potent, it is handled expeditiously. The status of hate speech cases under the NCIC Act in the Magistrates Court in May 2022 were as follows. In May 2022, there are 21 cases in total. 9 of them have been concluded. 9 cases are pending, and all have highly mentioned dates not later than June 2022. I think you need to clap for the judiciary. Out of 21, we have concluded 9 by May this year. And 2 files are being investigated by the Office of the Judiciary Ombudsperson as they were reported as missing. And 1 case was wrongly referenced. So we are tracking these cases day to day. Ladies and gentlemen, rest assured that the judiciary is putting its best foot forward. However, we cannot fight this vice alone. This is why I'm very excited about what CS, you have spoken about multi-agency approach. You have talked about a government approach, and you have talked about national approach, because this is what we need. We need to all come together and say we condemn hate speech, and we will not tolerate hate speech, and we move forward like that. That is the only way to win the war. The National Cohesion and Integration Commission, the Office of the Director and Public Prosecution, the DCI, and the police are our key partners and collaborators in fighting crimes of hate speech. As we move into the election period, it is critical that we are all reading from the same script, given that we are all pursuing a shared constitutional vision of having an electoral system and cycle that is transparent, free, fair, and that the pre-elections will maintain that during the pre-elections, during the elections, and the post-elections. I therefore implore also our political actors to put national interest above self-interest. Do not ethnically polarize Kenyans. The old adage goes that prevention is better than cure. Prevent hate speech. I urge us all to be bold enough to advocate for a hate-free Kenya. Let us love one another. Let us treat one another the way we like to be treated, and build on our national values, which serve us all and serve the best interest of our country. If we capitalize on national unity, social justice, human dignity, inclusiveness, non-discrimination, integrity, and accountability, there can be no space no space at all for hate speech, we can succeed in making Kenya a hate-free zone. One of the key aims of this action plan that we are launching this morning. And as I conclude, I must applaud and commend the NCIC for the work you have put in this action plan. It is indeed a step further in promoting equality, which we all stand for. It's also a step further in promoting harmony, which is part of your mandate, good relations, and peaceful coexistence between persons of different ethnic, racial, and religious backgrounds in Kenya. Let us all commit and play our part in enabling and actualizing this action plan. Long live Kenya. Thank you all for listening. God bless you, and God guide us and shine His light as we implement this national plan of action against hate speech. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Lady Chief Justice Martha K. Koome. Such a brilliant speech. Now, if you'd allow me to disturb you a little bit, I know I'm not Big Ted, I am Small Mark. So, Lady Chief Justice, if you would just stand where the gentleman in the striped sweater is standing, followed by, of course, Dr. Kobia, our Vice Chair, Wambui Nyutu, and of course, Mr. Wilson Jenga representing the CS. And we are just, ladies and gentlemen, this is the launch of the action plan against hate speech. With it, we are also launching the HateLex. We are launching the hate speech monitoring system and the documentary that will air this weekend on hate speech. So, gentlemen, there's a button to be pressed. If you could pass it to the Lady Chief Justice. You have it. So please, at your discretion, Lady Chief Justice, please launch the National Action Plan on hate speech. Yes, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, let's give a hearty clap to the Lady Chief Justice for launching the National Action Plan. And you might note that Kenya is, you must take your seats, ladies and gentlemen. Please note that Kenya becomes the first country in the world to actually launch an action plan on hate speech. I think we have a package for the Lady Chief Justice and her team. Asanteni sana. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll be allowed to interact with the screens you see. There'll be someone to guide you through it. That is the HateLex, which is the lexicon of words used in hate speech. We've got the hate speech monitoring and investigations tool. We've got the Kenya National Action Plan against hate speech, and we have the documentary. Thank you so much once again. Now, without much further ado, I'd like to invite our Vice Chair, Wambui Nyutu, to please give us a word of thanks before we close. Ladies and gentlemen, please be patient. We'll be giving you a viewing of the documentary after this statement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Small Mark, for leading us through that final part of the program. Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a great day for Kenya and for the world. And we are very proud as NCIC to be the first in the world to launch this action plan against hate speech. Mtupigie makofi tafadhali. Asante sana. And of course, Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice, Madam Martha Koome, We know that you really have a very, very busy program, but you made the time to come and be with us today and give us those very, very good words. And we know that your office really supports NCIC. We cannot be more grateful for the work that you have done, establishing the special courts, and all the great work that you continue to do. We appreciate your support. Our work actually cannot really be successful without your office, and we do not take that support for granted. Thank you so much, Mr. Wilson Jega, for making the time to be with us today and for greatly representing the big shoes, your boss. Thank you for fitting in very well. We thank you and the ministry for the continuous support you have always granted us. To the lady who was joining us online, Madam Alice Nderito, who is actually a former commissioner at NCIC. She is now the special advisor on the prevention of genocide at the UN. We really appreciate you, Madam Alice, for even pushing us to launch this program. We know that you would have really wished to be here with us today, but unfortunately you had to go back to New York. Thank you for that. To Mr. Steve Jackson, kaka yangu, asante sana, the UN resident coordinator. He never really misses to attend our functions. Thank you for all the support you and your office have always granted to us. We can also not also fail to thank Madam Zainabu and Madam Mandisa Mashologu for your presence and support. These are the people from UNDP. Thank you also to Madam Naomi. She is the chair of the Senate Committee on Cohesion. Madam, we appreciate the support that your committee has granted to NCIC. We also thank you because you are courageous enough to come up and with a bill amending the NCI Act. And this bill, if it goes through, is going really to strengthen the NCI Act, and it is going to even have those words, the HITLEX that we have since banned. Thank you for that. To Madam Anne Nderito, the Registrar of Political Parties, Kenya needs you at this time. And we thank you as NCIC that you have made the time also to be with us today. We also have people from the private sector, Dr. Vimal Shah, the people from Kenya Daima. We really thank you for your presence today and for even accepting to work together with the NCIC. Thank you for that. We have our partners who have always been with us, the UNDP, the GIZ, ECES, DFID, DANIDA, USAID, and all other partners who have really worked with NCIC. Thank you. We really cannot do it alone. We also have government agencies who have always supported our work. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, you know that NCIC must always rely on other state actors for the smooth operation and implementation of our roles. And this include the IEBC, the EACC, the DCI, the ORPP, the ODPP, and of course, the judiciary. We thank you for always being there with us. I can also see the chairman, the CEO of the National Youth Council. Thank you for accepting to hold the young people together and for accepting to work with us. Karibu sana and asante. To our partners, the Uwiano platform, we have always worked together, and we thank you that you never tire to support NCIC and to always do our duties together. Asanteni sana. You know very well that launching such an action plan really was not done in a day. A lot of work has been put together, and I want to thank the NCIC team, of course led by our chairman, by our commissioners, by the CEO, and of course the secretariat. You have put in a lot of work to have this document intact. Thank you for your service. To any partner that I may have omitted, please, it is not that we really do not recognize you. It is because maybe there are some omissions, but we want to thank you so much for all of your service. Asanteni sana. Sisi kama NCIC tunasema it is the ballot and not the bullet. We need a peaceful election. Thank you so much. My name is Wamboi Nyoto, the Vice Chair. God bless you.
Very well done, ladies and gentlemen. Do not be in a hurry to leave, though we have to excuse our Lady Chief Justice. But before you leave, Madam, we'd really like to have a photo opportunity with you as you exit on this side. So I would ask that the high table, together with the commissioners, walks this way and takes a photograph as they exit. The rest of us, you want it here? Okay, all right. I'm informed that it is right here. So if the high table could please come, plus the commissioners for the NCIC. Please, if you join me at the front for a photograph. Ladies and gentlemen, lunch will be provided, and there will also be a screening of the documentary, which is just 20 minutes long, so please do not be in a hurry.
There's room, we can push this behind.
Let me take the other flag.
Thank you so much, photographers, and thank you all for indulging me. I would like to recognize the presence of the chair of NACADA, Professor Mabel Opanda, and the CEO of NACADA, Victor Okioma. Thank you so much for making the time. Our Lady Chief Justice, we thank you. Now, without much further ado, as our dignitaries make their way, please know that lunches will be served. Let us take a moment to play the documentary. If I could have the collaboration of the sound team.
Mimi kazi yangu ilikuwa ni kuharibu. Hiyo 207 sisi ndio wale tulinyakua manyumba za watu.
Wengine tulikuwa tunaishi na wao, nasikia mtu ameanza kuleta ubishi, ati wewe ni Mjaluo ufai kuishi hapa, wewe ni Mkambo ufai kuishi hapa, wewe ni Mkikuyu ufai kuishi hapa.
Kulikuwa na rape cases ya watoto na kina mama. Watu wengi waliuawa na kupigwa mishale.
Tangia wakati huo naongea nikiwa na huzuni. Juu hata saa hii Kiambio sio mahali pa kukaa.
Una sehemu nyingine ukiulizwa nedayu, ukikosa kijuu kichwa yako inabaki hapo.
It was bad. It was bad.
Kibra is like I'd say a center where the whole nation looks at. And if something bad happens in Kibra, then it triggers violence in other areas.
Behind me is the sprawling Kibera slum, the site of many a political violent act, and many clashes indeed have been held in this slum right behind me. Now, we decided to quest after what causes this perennial issue of clashes in Nairobi. Indeed, this is the tongues of war, and as James the Apostle wrote and said, the tongue is a little member, but like a small fire in a forest, it burns the whole thing down. What are the tongues of war that bring not only Kibera, but Kenya as a whole into the brink of chaos every 5 years?
If you check what happened in the 1950s on the way to independence, there was a lot of cooking up of things to create hatred amongst the Kenyan people. You see, in the colonial times, all Africans were natives serving the colonial state, the interest. They were the same. It didn't matter what, whether you come or wherever you are. Oh yeah, there was no issue of tribe. You are just natives. As long as you are serving the what? The colonial state. The minute you start questioning that state and what it was doing across the country, then there was a lot of effort to remind you, no, you people are not the same. Yeah, you are different. You are this, you are that one. In fact, you used to fight before we came. So create the animosity. That division, when you are fighting the colonial state, then you are tribes.
In what is now India and Pakistan, and then Bangladesh, is that the British employed their divide and rule. Some of them clearly saw that this is going to remain a very powerful, nation if it remains together. So the best thing is to divide this and tell the Muslims, there is no way you can live together with the Hindus here, okay? And the Hindus say, as long as the Muslims remain here, they'll continue to take part of your land, etc. And therefore, let them go to a land that is going to be theirs as Muslims. Unfortunately, this was also accepted by some Indians and the Pakistanis. And I think this is where they lost it. One reason why the Europeans decided to eliminate the Native Americans is because of the need to create an empire for themselves. And they couldn't do it with those people who say they own the land. So you have to dispossess them of their land. You have to disinherit them. And to do that, they had to find a way of dehumanizing the Native Americans.
In war, things change, or the people in charge tend to create new realities, not the ones we know.
New realities.
New realities. Because ideally, or in normal times, as a human being, you will not kill anybody.
True.
So what is it that will make you dislike or go to the extent of killing somebody or hurting somebody, which ordinarily you would not do? And the only way you can be turned into a killer or a very violent person is to be convinced that the supposed enemy is no longer human. So that's why they come up with things like cockroaches and other things. And they change the rules of truth to convince or to persuade good common sense people to stop using common sense, to become insecure. So plant insecurity in the people and then blame that insecurity on the supposed enemy.
See, the Aryan race is considered to be the purest race, especially by Germans, but really by Europeans in general. And so in order to keep your race pure, because this is what Hitler, this is the ideology now of the purity of a race. Now, you have the Jews, you have the Sinti and the Roma, you know, otherwise called the Gypsies. That's a derogatory term. And we'll come to derogatory terms, because when you use those, again, you dehumanize people.
With that historic look at the international environment and the different genocide massacres and mass extinctions of people, we must then ask ourselves, does Kenya still have the ingredients of the narratives that cause war? Are the tongues of war still active in this country?
In 1992, we experienced firsthand conflict that was inter-ethnic in nature. Come 1997 election, tension built up. Of course, the former president was declared the winner. That is Moi, and the opposition, specifically DP, said it was unfair. They would not recognize that. Now, on the ground, had a different meaning. Though politicians here...
So for politicians, they're saying
yes,
they will not accept results.
They will not accept results.
Within their political right to say.
Of course.
Yes, but on the ground.
On the ground, it turns to become the fighting ground for the ethnic... it's a fodder for conflict on the ground. After 1998 conflict, we had a relative moment. 2002, we did the elections. The region was not very much affected at the time. But 2004, we had another cycle of violence. 2007 and 8, of course, we had the post-election violence, the famous.
Ni ukabila ilileta hizi stori zote. Sababu wakati tulianaunsiwa president ni nani, ndio once watu wakaanza kuwa sasa hawayuko kimoja. Hasa ukaanza kusikia wengine wanaanza ubishi na wengine tulikuwa tunaishi na wao, nasikia mtu wameanza kuleta ubishi, ati wewe ni Mjaluo ufai kuishi hapa, wewe ni Mkamba ufai kuishi hapa, wewe ni Mkikuyu ufai kuishi hapa. Hasa pale hivi kila mtu akaanza kuwa sasa yuko separate na mwingine. Hakuna amani. Ukabila already imeingia. Hasa mauaji ndio zikaanza.
Kikifika wakati wa election, watu wanasoni kulingana na tribe yako. Napata huku ni Kijaluo, huku ni Kikuyu, Kikamba, hivyo. Sana sana kama 2007 kisaharibika kabisa. Kulikuwa na salamu. Kuna sehemu zingine ukiulizwa wewe nango na ukosa kujibu. Kuna sehemu zingine ukiulizwa nedayu, ukikosa kujibu kichwa yako inabaki hapo. So unajua hiyo ile trend tu kidogo, sasa ile iliharibika kabisa. Vitu tulikuwa tunaona kwa TV. Mara sijui Wajaluo wamekatwa kwa gari wakienda tao. Sasa umesikia tu vita inarudi kwa kijiji hapa. Kama wewe ni Mjaluo na mnakaa na Mkikuyu, mnafukuswa. Kama wewe ni Kikuyu hapo na Wajaluo walikuwa nakaa hapo. Hapo ndio sasa vita ilianza vibaya sana.
This question of zoning the country is very dangerous. You cannot say that this is a ODM zone, or this is my bedroom, this is UDA, zone. Zoning is very dangerous because that's when now you have this otherness. People say, if you are not UDA, you don't belong here. We will not even allow you to vote, So that is very dangerous. And I would say that actually now, I have seen Kenya moving slowly towards a situation where there are no bedrooms and zones for political parties. If we leave it, if we continue this way, it is democratically a healthy way of doing our elections. And that is, to me, is what I feel as NCIC will help this country.
Now, when, for example, you're a supporter of, I'd say, Azimio or maybe Kenya Kwanza, either of the two, and you find your opponents there and they start saying that, how? you know, you become scared because the first thing that you look at is your ethnical background. So for me, that is a very, very scary word. And okay, it's a word that it's scary, yes, but brings a lot of, you know, like kind of like creates tension for me because you don't know what will happen with that kind of utterances.
Kama ni Mluya alikuwa na support Raila. Kama ni Mjaluo alikuwa na support Raila. Hawa watu wengine walikuwa na support Raila. Na ikawa kwanza Wakikuyu wamekaa siku nyingi. Hao ndio kila kitu ha? Ukienda kwa umaskini, hao ndio wanajiita maskini namba moja. Ukienda kwa utajiri, hao ndio matajiri namba moja. Ukienda kwa wizi, hao ndio waizi namba moja. Mara ukifanya hivi, ukienda kwa wale wenye hawana refugee, unakuta ni ha? Sasa ikasemekana sasa sisi tutajificha wapi? Na nyinyi ndio wenye kutuibia. Na nyinyi hamtaki mtu mwingi. Kama ni hizi nyumba tunakodesha ni zenyu. Kwa hivyo kama ni namna hiyo nyumba zenyu hatutalipa. Sasa uhasama ilianzia hapo. Sasa Wakikuyu wakasema hakuna. Kama ni hivyo mtoke kwa nyumba zetu. Ile yenye nilikuwa nakaa mwenyewe akakuja akaniambia hakuna. Afadhali nifuge kuku. Nikamuuliza hiyo kuku imekusaidia na nini? Hii miaka yote mimi nimekaa na wewe. Na kwanza hata mimi ndo nakuchukulia pesa. Nakuja nakupa, unaenda nazo. Alafu saa hizi umeniona mimi binadamu sifai, kuku ndio inafaa. Nikamwambia basi na mimi hapa haupati. Juu hii shamba saa yote tunatishiwa. Hii shamba tunaambiwa saa yote tunaweza ondolewa. Iwe usiku iwe mchana Junior Air Force. Kwa hivyo mimi na wewe kuanzia leo ploti sasa ni yangu.
We can come to Rwanda. When actually you look at these people speak the same language, they have the same culture, but at the same time they are made to believe that they are completely different. There is a superior, you know, a group is coming of Aryan race again. You have the Tutsis who actually were made to believe that they are Semitic. They are not even, you know, Bantu.
Tulishuhudia mambo mengi mabaya, machafuko, hasa kule kwetu karibu na nyumbani, mahali kunaitwa Kiamba, ambapo kulikuwa na vita, watu wengi waliuawa kwa kuchomwa, kwa kupigwa na kupigwa mishale. Kulikuwa na rape cases ya watoto na kina mama. Mali mengi yaliibwa kama mtu unaibiwa ng'ombe. Wengi sana waliibiwa ng'ombe, vitu vya kutumia nyumbani kama TV, sola na vyombo vya nyumbani. Matusi yalikuwa, kuna majina ya Kikale ambayo huwa wanatumia kuashiria wale wengine, kabila lile lingine. Kama kwa, for example, ukisema kama mama, hiyo obvious unaelewa ni kwa Wakikuyu. Ama waseme kama Murgele, inaashiria pia kwa Wakikuyu. So mtu anapotamka hilo neno anajua ya kwamba anaashiria Wakikuyu.
Mimi mwenyewe hata vile niko hivi, nilikuja nikakaa, nimepitia mengi. Mpaka wakati huo tulikuja tukanyakua manyumba, tukakaa tunaishi manyumba za watu, tumechificha. Mimi kazi yangu ilikuwa ni kuharibu. Tulikuwa hata hiyo 207 sisi ndio wale tulinyakua manyumba za watu. Ambapo ukipata mtu yote, yani tunatafuta kai maneno ya hii election, sisi ndio wale tulikuwa tunataka isiwe tu election ya amani, ya kuharibike, ili tupole.
Wakati huo tulikuwa group, kwa hivyo tulijidefend na wenzetu, kama ni kupigana tukapigana. Kawaida ya election ya Kenya watu hurudi kwa makabila zao, lakini kwa sasa ni mbaya sana kwa sababu hata hizo makabila zenyewe zimegawanyika. Kwa hivyo hiyo misemo bado iko.
Kwa saa hii ndio kuna tension kwa saa hii, lakini si kama ya the year 2007 and 8.
I met with this gang of men, and they were carrying all sorts of weapons in their hands. And then one of them greeted me, Abaria Black Beauty. Then I was really scared and I thought that nilikuwa nimejibu, then unfortunately I had not answered because I was not even able to get the words out of my mouth because I was really scared. Then they greeted me in a language that I didn't understand, and I was not able to answer back. And they were speaking among themselves. Then boom, I felt a very sharp pain on the back of my head, and I just passed out.
Those stories that we have never dealt with, they still reign among people's mind. We as a country, I would say we have never seriously faced that conversation and to address them. And I can tell you, even when you go to the ground and you talk to people, they will tell you, we have never reconciled. The issues that make us fight are still there. So narratives exist, they are there, they are strong. The moment you talk to them, they will tell you what they hold deep within themselves, and they are always ready, if triggered, to resort into violence.
What is the pledge of the NCIC to Kenyans in 2022 in terms of dealing with hateful narratives and the tongues of war?
You see, we have put really great emphasis on dangers of hate speech. We are going very soon to unveil a national program against hate speech as a way of educating Kenyans, whether we call it civic education or public education or voter education, etc. We want Kenyans to reach a point where they say, well, unless we check our language, and especially at the level of leadership, we run the danger of repeating the problems we had in 2007, 2008. If, under any circumstances that there will be disputes, there will be complaints and all that, we have the channels for doing that. And we are very encouraged by the way that the judiciary has also prepared themselves to deal with any complaints in the fastest possible way. And for us, by working with the DCI, the DPP, the judiciary, the IEBC, EACC, and the Registrar of Political Parties, and of course the Communications Authority, will be able, I think, to deliver the elections that Kenyans will be proud to have participated in.
It is therefore clear that for as long as we have land narratives, a narrative where we belong to this land and other people don't, for as long as we have zoning of places and this is this party zone and this is that other party zone, for as long as we still believe in tribal supremacy and ask the questions of whether so and so has done a certain ritual, for as long as we as a country do not have trust in our institutions and our politicians keep telling us that it may be what the election has been stolen, for as long as there's an us versus them narrative, then I guarantee you the tongues of war are still active in our country.
say these are mandoadwa which should be removed. Just say these are mandoadwa which should be removed. Just